Good morning.
Good morning, Stephen. How are you?
I'm doing amazing.
That's a good thing.
How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
Good. Excellent. Glad to be here.
Thanks for jumping on with all of us.
So you guys are at the Atlantic Shore Market Center in New Jersey.
Yep. We're right outside of Atlantic City.
Well, first of all, you're gonna have to get used to my accent to understand me. Probably, I'm probably speaking a different language. By the way, I can't hear my accent, but I can hear yours.
See, we up here we say we don't have an accent.
Oh, you do.
That's funny.
I hope you guys are doing great this morning. So I'm happy to be here, and we can kind of set the format to how you guys want it. I do have a PowerPoint presentation that I can fly through pretty quickly. If we all stick together and let me fly through it quickly, we can hit that and still leave some room to chat afterwards.
That would be great.
But we can kind of do any format you guys want to go with, and we can get to know each other first. So,
Stephen, if you want to just introduce yourself, okay. I mean, I guess everybody knows you're Stephen Cooley, but where you work out of, and how many people are on your team, and how long you've been in the business, and all that good stuff.
Good. Well, I'm based out of Charlotte, North Carolina. Charlotte's actually a border city. It sits on the border of North and South Carolina. So I actually launched my business 30 years ago in upstate South Carolina, some small border communities around Charlotte called Rock Hill, South Carolina, Fort Mill, South Carolina, and then moved into the greater Charlotte market. So anytime I travel, I just say the greater Charlotte, North Carolina market. So I started my business in the little sub cities around the big city. I've been in business for 30 years. I lead a team of 45 people. Last year, we ranked from their hard work, 5th in the Keller Williams franchise. We're set to do about 1,000 units this year. And we're having a good time doing it. So, yeah, that's the important stuff. That's really all that matters.
Yeah. Well, I heard you have a good time doing it, so that's important to me.
Yeah, we have a great time doing it. And my big why is to share with folks in and off my team on how to be successful in this industry. I got into this business in 1989 with $200 in my bank account, and it cost back then about $1,000 to get everything up and running with dues and that kind of stuff. So I started in the hole, and everything I own today is a result of going to real estate closings. It's not from investing in the stock market or investing in anything or subs businesses, not the mortgage business, insurance business. It's from going to real estate closings. And that's what I love, and that's what I still love today. I had a client call me yesterday that wants to sell her daughter's home, and I worked with her directly about 20 years ago. So she left a message yesterday morning wanting to sell her daughter's home. Her daughter's home is whatever the least expensive home in your town. That would probably be her daughter's house. In our area, that's probably about $100,000 home. She left a message. I called her 7 times yesterday until I got her. And out of her mouth was, "You're more aggressive now than when you were 21 years old, 30 years ago." And I said, "Yeah, pretty much." So, I'm still focused on that, and I'm still doing what every single person on this Zoom today is doing. I'm chasing buyers and sellers and helping them sell and buy real estate. So,
yeah. And you still work with buyers?
I run the company, but when you build a team and you're the brand, I'll always say, McDonald's knew to only stick one clown on the sign, not every franchise owner. So I'm the clown. And so from just being the person on the billboards, radio, TV, yard signs, I get those calls. So I take an agent with me, but I'll go, to get the deal, I'll go. I certainly will talk to them on the phone And then if I find out if I have to go, I'll ride with one of my agents. So,
Gotcha.
yeah, I still love that. It's just time consuming. You know, it's time consuming when you're running the business. And our business doubled when I got out of production. And I stayed in production long enough to accomplish all my materialistic whys as in, you know, your why board. And then I refocused on helping other people love real estate and have a big living in it. I hired a 17-year-old. His name's Landon Albrick. He's on my team. He's now 20. He's third in my company, and he's bought his 5th rental home, 3rd car, and makes more than what a new doctor makes. And he was able to avoid college and college debt and all that. So that becomes my big why in my later part of my career. So but you know, guys, you got to hit those materialistic whys of yours before you need to do that. You know, there's nothing wrong. I don't want to be in business with anybody who's not money motivated. And I believe being money motivated is kind of throughout the years, it seems to have gotten to be a bad word. But, you know, if you shouldn't be in the front end sales on that front line for any industry, if you're not money motivated. You should be working in the factory building the product, not out hustling, selling the product. So don't ever feel bad about being money motivated. I'd be honored to be one of the people on this earth who's money motivated, because we keep all the people back in the factory working, you know, just comparing us to other industries. And so I'm a money motivated person. Now, I'm not greedy, and I'm actually not very materialistic, but I'm an extremely money motivated person for the power that money gives me to even help other people. You know, when I coach a 20-year-old, I coach them to that Mercedes or Rolex watch on their why board, and it should be on their why board. You know, when you coach a 35-year-old, you're probably coaching to good child care, a bigger, better home, better school system. You know, you coach a 45-year-old to probably, if they've moved through the other decades of being money motivated, you coach them about sending their kids to college debt free. You know, maybe some bigger materialistic items. And then if somebody's moved through those decades, you can coach 50 and 60-year-olds to retirement and charity, right? And so I understand that about my youngest agent is 20 now, and my oldest agent is 79. And both of them are in my top 5. Both of them, the 20-year-old and the 79-year-old, are in my top 5, and they've become best friends because their common goals are very similar. Yeah, so understanding that about who you are and being money motivated. You know, being money motivated, making money has helped so many people in my life and in my world, personally and professionally. And so don't feel bad about that. Don't feel bad about building a whiteboard and having materialistic things on it. You know, if I hadn't gotten those things and enjoyed them at one time, I probably still want them, right? And we're in an industry where the first year we can make more than a doctor who went to school for 8 or 12 years. And certainly our job's not cut out for everybody with a high, 90% failure rate over a 10-year period. But the ones that's cut out for, we can have big lives and help a lot of people. So.
That's so true.
Yeah. So you want to fly through this PowerPoint?
Yeah.
Let me tell you, I can take an hour and a half to get through it, or 20 minutes. Are y'all on board for the 20-minute?
Yeah, we're 20-minute cruise.
I am a 20-minute crew too. So let me find it. And let me just say that, can you hear me?
Yep.
Good. There's always a silver lining to every problem. And a silver lining to this virus is Zooms. I spoke at a market center for a team leader friend of mine in San Francisco, and due to flights and travel, it took 3.5 days of my time to speak for an hour. And it, you know, they paid for my travel and all, and it was expensive for them. Zooms lets us spend this morning and having coffee together at easy for me and easy for you guys. With that said, we all have technical difficulties. So if something goes wrong, I'll be right back. How's that?
That
If
works.
something pops up on my screen you shouldn't see, don't look at it. All right? Let's have a good time. So we all want to dominate our real estate market. Can we agree on that?
Yeah.
All right, everybody on this call want to dominate your real estate market? All right, we're going to talk about it. Why did you pick real estate? Why did I pick real estate? There's common denominators on why we chose to be a realtor and not a doctor, not an engineer, right? We picked it. Number one, it's easy to get into. You know, there's no limitations on how many people they'll let in real estate. If you're trying to be a salesman for a pharmaceutical company, they may only hire one person a year or one person per territory. But no one says there's not enough, there's already too many agents in New Jersey, you can't get in. So easy entry, you know, a 90-day course, a 90-hour course, not a 4-year, 6-year, 8-year degree. We all got in because it was easy to get in. If we'd have called and said, you know, what does it take to be a realtor? And someone has said 8 years of college education, most of us would have said, nah, I'll do something different. We don't own our inventory. And I've bragged about that and talked about that for 30 years. Friends of mine own a high-end boutique, probably similar to one that would be in New Jersey, in Charlotte, and it's just women's clothes. And you can see from one side of the boutique to the other, it's not that big. At any given time, they have $2 to $3 million worth of clothing on the floor. And they got to get bank loans to buy the inventory. And then price reductions, bad buys, bad sweaters, they're stuck with. And so we don't own our inventory. And the industry's getting into our industry in the last 24 months that are buying the inventory to get market share, open door, offer pad. You watch those guys, they won't make it under that model because you get stuck with product. You make bad buys, you lose money. And we've seen all those lose money, right? And all those are transitioning to see if they can be a real estate company. We're the only industry that you can get into and not own your inventory, unless you open a consignment, you know, little boutique or something. Low startup cost, a couple $1,000. Friends of mine opened a Chick-fil-A here, $1 million of hard investment to get the site and the building and launch a Chick-fil-A, $1 million. You know, a couple $1,000, and we can make as much as the owner of that Chick-fil-A the first year. It's a product that everybody needs. You know, every person over the age of 18 is a client. Might be a client today, might be a client tomorrow, but they're a client. A friend of mine sells X-ray machines. He says there's about 4 clients per city. And there's about 10 people trying to sell X-ray machines, different brands, to those few clients. But we offer a product that every person driving a car is a potential client. And it's built into human DNA to want shelter. And so when you strike up a conversation with someone in front of you or behind you at Starbucks, they're a client. And that's not true in most sales. We're selling the #1 wealth builder in America. 90% of Americans' wealth is tied up in real estate. And for most Americans, it's their single family residential home that they live in. That's their #1 wealth builder over their lifetime. And you are bringing that to the table when you talk to people about it. These are the reasons I picked real estate. And if you think about it, pretty much all of us. And the last reason is we're just grossly overpaid people. Now, the problem is most realtors don't do enough business to feel that way. But my neighbors called me a couple of weeks ago. They live in a $1 million home. I walked across the street. I signed them up to put their home on the market. I was there about 30 minutes, and I'm billing them $60,000. Now, I did pay an assistant about 20 bucks an hour to type it into MLS, right? I did pay a photographer 200, and I did pay a measurer 200, but I'm billing them $60,000 for that visit, in my knowledge. What if I did that every hour? What if I did it once a day? What if I did it even once a month? Now, it ain't their problem that I'm going to put it in MLS and co-broke and keep 30, not 60. They're paying me $60,000. It's not their problem that I have other fees involved. When I stay at the Ritz-Carlton and pay them $1,500 for a room, I paid $1,500. I don't talk to them about, well, what'd you do with the $1,500? What did the washing the towels cost you? I don't go down that road because consumers don't. But for that visit to their home for about 30 minutes, I billed them $60,000. And guess what? They've probably spent $60,000 on cars that they kept 5 years, boats, but never in their lifetime have they paid $60,000 for an intangible service that's basically just expertise. You know, they probably paid an attorney a few $1,000. You know, big divorce, maybe $20,000, but they've never paid $60,000 for something they didn't get to drive for 5 years. But they paid me $60,000 for me walking over to their home. So we're going to talk about that because that's the big thing on this list that matters. All right, why is real estate? I have no problem with anybody screenshotting this because I'm going to fly through this. Why is real estate a wealth builder for people? This is something I want you to be able to do and sit down with first-time buyers and go over with them. This is something that I want you to conduct a home buyer seminar and use. Okay, so here we go. By the way, these prices are my area. You can probably double these areas.
Stephen, right. We're not seeing your screen.
Oh, you're not seeing my screen?
Nope.
I think I may need to click on screen share. Let's see what that does, guys.
There we go.
All right, the party's about to start. Let me sure I can get this up and running. You know, this is that technology thing I was talking about, right? All right, can you see all this? All right, that's what I was talking about. Easy entry, no startup cost, product for everyone. #1 wealth builder in America. Hang on, watch this. All right, I've got a little bit of money and I can buy. All right, the scenario is I'm living in an apartment. I'm renting. All right, I'm a 28-year-old paying rent. Here we go. I've got $7,000 in my bank account. All right, I'm going to invest it in stock and keep renting. I'm going to keep it for 5 years. It's going to earn 5% a year, and I'm going to continue paying $1,500 a month in rent. Scenario 2, I'm going to take that $7,000 and put it as a down payment. Somebody's wanting to enter. You see that? I want to put it as a down payment on a house and not buy stock with it. I'm going to get 96.5% FHA financing. That'll get me a $200,000 house. Now that gets a house in my area, by the way. But you can double these numbers if you need to. The scenario gets better if you go up in price. All right, I'm gonna keep the house for the same 5 years that I would have kept the stock, and the home's gonna go up 5% a year for 5 years. Okay, I'm able to quit renting. All right, stock originally I put 7,000 down, compounded interest over 5 years. It ended up being worth $8,933. Buying the house, I bought a $200,000 house with only 7,000 investment, just like the stock. The house went up 5% a year, compounded interest. The house went up to $255,000. Now you got to remember, on a house, you're getting the appreciation on the 200, not the 7. On the stock, you're getting the appreciation only on the 7. Profit from the stock, after 5 years, it's worth $8,900. I paid $7,000 for it, so my gross profit is $1,900. I've got to pay capital gains on that money, so my profit is $1,500 on $7,000. I'm pretty happy. By the way, the loan structure is just a typical FHA loan. And there's how you pay down the loan over the 5 years too, right? So you pay down the loan over 5 years to $174,000. You need to know that in this calculation, because every payment you made was a house payment that paid down principal instead of rent. Profit from the sale of the home. I sell the home after 5 years for $255,000. I pay off the reduced loan amount, $74,000 gross profit. No capital gains because I lived there 2 years. Net profit, $74,000 on a $7,000 investment. Return on the investment on the stock, 22%. Pretty good. Return on the stock on the home, 1,000%. #1 wealth builder in America. You can do this for someone renting. You can change their life. The good news right now in my area, with interest rates at 2.7, is buying's about 30% less of a payment than rent because interest rates are so low. So they can accomplish this and pay less on a mortgage than rent. You'd have to check that in your area. You see why real estate's America's #1 wealth builder? Do you see why being an advocate for housing, every single person you meet who's renting, you need to get them in a house, even if they only want to stay there 5 years and then go back to renting? You can put $74,000 in this scenario in their pocket, tax free, because it was their primary residence. Why are we grossly overpaid? On a listing, let's just take a listing. These are 6 hours that I have involved in a listing. I spend 1 hour lead gen. You call 100 people in a neighborhood with high turnover for 1 hour, you will find someone who tells you they want to sell their home. It's a numbers game. It's got to be in a neighborhood that has turnover. It can't be in a neighborhood where nobody moves in or out. And we all have those type of neighborhoods. I'm going to spend an hour on a CMA, actually 10 minutes, but an hour on a CMA, an hour on the listing appointment. I'm going to come back. My assistant's going to enter it. I'm going to enter it in MLS. I'm going to negotiate contracts when they come in for an hour. Now, it may take 3 days to negotiate a contract, but if you do attorney billable hours, I guarantee you're probably not on the phone more than an hour in negotiating contracts on the home. An hour in transaction coordinating, same scenario. If you track your minutes on the phone in a transaction coordinating, you probably got no more than an hour, and an hour at closing. I'm going to use a $400,000 house, which is our medium price point. I'm going to run it on 3% commission only because I'm going to assume I co-broked it. In this scenario, I billed at $2,000 an hour. Now, the best attorney in my town's $400 an hour. Now that's the best one. And I helped run a health clinic in town, a nonprofit health clinic, and we hired doctors out of medical school with huge medical debt at $165 an hour. A doctor, $165 an hour. You're billing at $2,000 an hour. The secret is, yeah, $2,000 an hour. The secret is, if you stay in one of these 6 groups, lead gen, all the way down to listings, if you stay in that mode, only 40 hours a week, not 60, not 80 hours a week, and you do it 52 weeks a year, you make over $4 million. The key is you got to stay in those 6 things 40 hours a week to make $4 million a year. And this is medium price point, 400,000, and this is running it on only 3% commission because you're probably co-broking. And in our organization and in Keller Williams, there's many of us making more than that, including me. And if you want to know what we make, you just go to mykw.com, go to reports, type in my name, and you can see what I've made this year. And it's already more than the 4 million. So this works. Now the talent is staying in lead gen, listings, negotiating, and closing. That's the secret, right? And the secret to me building a team, and guys, I figured this out at 21 years old when I hired my first assistant, is whatever I can pay people less than $2,000 an hour that keeps me in the $2,000 an hour work, the more money I make. And giving you a scenario on that. If I can stay in lead gen, listing, negotiating, and closing, and pay someone $15 an hour to put a yard sign up, or a couple $100 to take pictures, or I've been in it 31 years, first 15 years, they required the realtor to measure every home. You could not sub that out. The realtor had to measure the home. But paying someone to measure the home, paying someone to go get me lunch, paying someone to cut my grass at home, clean my house. Anybody I can pay less than $2,000 an hour to, I make money if I go and stay in one of these 6 things, and you got to spread it out. When you don't have 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 to do, you stay in one, and you don't get out of one for your 40 hours a week until you have 2 and 3 to go do. And when you go to 2 and 3 and you get back and you don't have a contract to negotiate, you go back to 1. Most of the people that you pay over a period of time, when you're billing at $2,000 an hour, most of the people you pay, you will pay between $12 and $25 an hour. Until you hire agents, and then you're probably going to pay them $800 an hour. Probably going to put them on a 40% and you keep 60. So, but I'm still paying them $800 an hour and charging $2,000. But that's your last hire. And if you go to Gary Keller's red book on building a team, the 7 levels, it will tell you your 3rd or 4th hire is a showing agent, not your 1st, 2nd, or 3rd hire. And so I had 3 assistants helping me in my early 20s so I could stay in the $2,000 an hour work. All right. And so I was, our MLS had about 7,000 people back then. We've got 18,000 now. And I became, this was pre-big teams, but with me and my 3 assistants, no agent, I was number 1 out of those 8,000 at about 24 years old from doing this one thing. This is why we are grossly overpaid people, right? Now we're going to move on. For a $2,000 an hour job, I just told you you had a $2,000 an hour job. Now, if you deal with $800,000 homes, not 400, you've got a $4,000 an hour job. So it's based on your price point divided into those, after you co-broke, divide six into it. So my job's about $2,000 an hour. If Bank of America is a big employer in my city, if Bank of America had a job opening that was $4 million a year, $4 million a year job, and I was going to apply for it, what would I wear on that job interview? What would you wear on a $4 million job interview? What would you wear? I probably would be conservatively well dressed.
Your Sunday's best.
Yeah, but my best would not be a bunch of Rolexes and diamonds. It probably would not be, men, we have it easy, a well-fitted suit. A well-fitted suit is what I'd wear on a $4 million job interview, or $2,000 an hour a job. And that's every seller we go out to. Every seller. It's not their problem that you don't go on 5 listing appointments a day, but they're paying you. My neighbors paid me $60,000. I know them. I've been swimming with them. I put on my suit because I didn't give them a discount. So, what would you wear? You would have, but men, you'd probably have a conservative suit on. Ladies, a little bit more challenging. You would not wear what you would wear to church. You would not wear what you'd wear on a date. You would not wear what you would wear to a afternoon poolside cocktail party. I see all that. I see all those clothes in our industry. You would be conservatively, professionally dressed also. And it certainly wouldn't be the yoga outfit, even if it's your neighbor. How prepared would you be for a $4 million job at Bank of America or a similar company in your area? I'd be at 100%. I would quote their goals, their mission, their vision statements. I would quote their board of directors, their C-level jobs. I would know their goals. I would know everything about the department. For $4 million a year, I might sit there and name their 60,000 employees to prove I could lead them. That's how I would be prepared for a $4 million job. That's every listing appointment we go on. What would the level of my product knowledge be if it was at Chrysler or if it was at GM? I'd go out and drive every car they make before I would go apply for that job at $4 million a year. I shared this with a young, aggressive salesman at Mercedes, and after having this conversation with him, he flew over to Germany and toured all their main facilities. He asked to meet the CEO of Mercedes, and the CEO granted it. When he came back to Charlotte to sell Mercedes, his business quadrupled because he told people he watched the cars get made. And he talked about Sally, who sewed the leather on the steering wheel. Yeah. What would your attitude be for that 1 hour interview? Would you leave? I'd leave all my problems at home for an hour. I would not bring them with me. I would go in with the best attitude they've ever seen in their entire lives, right? So, remember, when you're lead genning, not just closings, remember when you're doing that CMA, remember when you go on that listing appointment, remember when you negotiate the contracts, transaction coordinate, and close at the closing, remember those sellers are paying you $2,000 to $4,000 an hour, right? And when we go to closings, we leave our phones in the car. We're dressed like professionals. We sit beside them and we're all wrapped up in the paperwork with them. Like it's the only closing we've ever, that our whole lives are counting on, because that's the case of the seller, right? The attorney's sitting on, we're an attorney state, so it's not a title state, so attorneys do our closings. The attorney's making $100 an hour. But I'm sitting there charging $2,000 to $4,000 to be in the room too. Guess who's running the show at that closing? Me. Because I'm the highest paid person in the room. You need to walk around. And this is what I tell folks. If you don't want to dress that way every day, have that Superman, Wonder Woman outfit hanging in your car. If you come to the office, have it hanging on the back door of your office. If you don't want to wear it all day long. Have that pair of shoes in your desk drawer and always put it on. The other, and let me just say this, Bank of America and Wells Fargo are our two largest employers. On Monday, if I had that job interview at Bank of America, and Tuesday I had the same job interview for a $4 million job at Wells Fargo, I'll wear the same suit. They don't know. I started my business with two $59 suits and about 10 ties. One was dark blue and one was dark gray. And I made each of those suits look new every day. And I wore them every day until I could afford my third. You don't need to go out and spend, $100,000 on 50 outfits, but you need that one when you go to those sellers' houses. And don't fall victim to, well, I'm friends with them, I'm neighbors with them, my kids go to school with them, they've seen me casually dressed, I can wear this. I'm telling you, it's failure if you do that. All right. I got little antennas sitting on top of my head, and there's 5 antennas, and these 5 antennas are on high beam all day long, every day, wherever I go. I remember, I'm looking for a local home buyer. If you're behind me in Starbucks, are you a local home buyer? Hello, my name is Stephen Cooley with the Stephen Cooley Real Estate Group. Are you interested in buying a home locally? Hello, my name is Stephen Cooley with the Stephen Cooley Real Estate Group. Do you own a home locally? Because if you do, you're going to be selling it at some point. Hello, my name is Stephen Cooley. Are you interested in buying a home anywhere in the world? And I can connect you with the top agent in that area so you don't get a bad agent and have a bad experience, but you get a great buyer's agent to get you the best price and the best inspector and the best home that fits your needs. Hello, my name is Stephen Cooley with the Stephen Cooley Real Estate Group. Do you know anybody in the world that owns a home that may want to sell it at some point? And I can connect them with the top agent in that area so they don't get a bad experience. An agent who's known for getting top dollar for houses. Hello, my name is Stephen Cooley, and I'm a Keller Williams agent. Have you ever thought about joining Keller Williams or becoming a real estate agent? I can connect you to a market leader in every town in America, and they can onboard you with VIP treatment because of my connections. And those 5 antennas are just flapping around on top of my head if I'm at church, if I'm at Starbucks, if I'm at my local grocery store, if I'm at the gyms that I go to. I was calculating I've probably made over $500,000 belonging to gyms. I belong to 3 because my antennas are just out there flapping all the time, right? Every single person you meet will fall into one of these 5. And we're the only industry in the world where we can get that money. You know, when I change towns and change doctors, they don't do that type of referral. When I leave town and need a new dentist, they don't do that type of referral. We're the only industry I've ever found in the world where every single person over 18 we can make money on because we're money motivated people. I want to touch on product knowledge because I mentioned product knowledge when I was talking about how to make $2,000 an hour and how important it was to have product knowledge. What level of knowledge would you have of the product at $2,000 an hour? If you called an attorney and he said, Well, everybody else in town's $250 an hour, but I'm $2,000 an hour. What would you expect his product knowledge to be of law? What would you, if you called a CPA and all CPAs are $100 an hour and one said, well, I'm $2,000 an hour. What would you expect his knowledge to be of taxes? What would you expect his connections to be with the IRS? What would you expect for $2,000 an hour when you use your CPA?
Not to pay my taxes.
I'd expect not to pay anything. Exactly. That's why I'm paying $100 an hour and paying a lot of taxes probably. So that's exactly right. I expect product knowledge to be 99%. I want to give you a little scenario that happened right before COVID. I went to New York and spent time with one of your competitors, Robert, with Remax, and spoke up there. And I went back and got on the airplane, had on my Superman outfit, my suit. I sat in first class. I'm 6'4", so that's more comfortable for me. And I'm a nervous flyer, so they'll bring me a cocktail. And so I'm flying back. I heard the airline attendant tell another first class passenger, she said, I've flown 18 legs. I'm headed home. So we're all on a Charlotte bound flight. So when she got to me and asked for my drink order, I said, well, I'm headed home too. Where do you live? She said, well, I live in a little town called Rock Hill in a little neighborhood called Riverwalk. And I said, oh my gosh, I love Riverwalk. And I love that little wine bar that opened in front of Riverwalk. And I love that trail that runs along the river, that 6.2 mile trail along the river. She said, oh my gosh, I can't believe you know my neighborhood. I said, yeah, when did you buy in there? She said, 2012. I said, well, back in 2012, Standard Pacific was the only builder. Now there's 3. She said, wow, I can't believe you know that. And I said, yeah. I said, they had 4 house plans. Which one did you get? She said, I got the Savannah plan. I said, that's the home with the double front porches, upstairs and downstairs. She said, oh my gosh, I can't believe you know that. I said, yeah, that is actually one of my favorite plans. She says, well, I love it. She says, I'm across from the park. I said, you have the blue house. She said, oh my gosh, yes, I do. So she served people. She came back and I said, when are you going to sell it? She said, you know, I can live anywhere. I'm a flight attendant and my family's in Pittsburgh and I'm thinking about moving back. Do you think I've made money on my home? And I said, well, back in 2012, you paid about $140 a square foot and they're selling for about $172 a square foot now. She said, oh my gosh, I can't believe that. How much would I make? I said, what do you owe? She told me. She came back and I said, well, your check at closing would be between $85,000 and $90,000. So we landed. I gave her my card. I do that so much. I actually don't remember that. She's really told that story enough that I knew now. I know it. But about a month later, my office listing department came in and they said, Stephen, do you have a private flight attendant? And I said, no, I'd need a plane. I can't afford one, and pilots. And no, I don't. She said, well, a flight attendant called. She said she was your flight attendant and she put her $500,000 home on the market with us and it's already under contract in one day. So, you know, that conversation on that airplane, I was billing at $2,000 an hour because I was lead genning on that flight. The other thing is I knew all that, guys, without looking at a computer. All that. And the reason I know all that, because at $2,000 an hour, I think I should. And this morning, before I had a Zoom before you guys, this morning before the Zooms, I did what I do every morning, 7 days a week, no matter where I am in the world. I spend 1 hour looking at MLS. Every morning, 7 days a week, no matter where I am in the world. I spend 1 hour looking at MLS and I'm so caught up, I just go to the hot sheet and I look at who's listed their home, who's went pending, and who's closed. Because the closed prices are the new values. The pending's your current market. Listings is the competition for other listings. Every morning, 1 hour, I spend doing that. And I'm on year 30 of doing that. And that started before there was an MLS. When I started this, I had to go out and ride by the home. Now I can do it in my pajamas, drinking coffee, and look at up to 30 pictures and virtual tours. You can't have those high-minded conversations without product knowledge. Scripts don't work without product knowledge. Product knowledge is the secret pill that everyone skips. I spoke at a market center last year, and they all showed up for the secret. And I printed out of Zillow, because I'm not in their MLS, 10 homes that had been on the market for more than 30 days within 10 miles of the market center. And I called out the addresses and asked people to raise their hand who could quote the exact price of the home, exact square footage of the home, or tell me anything about the home. And I found less than 5% of the room could hit any of that. But ask me about my market, and I'm at 99% market knowledge because the market's it's changed since we've been on this Zoom. It takes my niece just graduated as a physician assistant, and she graduated from our Ivy League down here called Wake Forest. And to take her exam, she locked herself in one of those little phone booths at the library last year, and she studied 12 hours a day for 7 days after 6-7 years of college. And we all took her food by there. She wouldn't come out of the room to pass the board exam to be a PA. She's going to make $70,000 a year. Initially getting in our business, you need to spend 12 hours a day for 7 or 8 days studying MLS. My Sunday afternoon ritual is riding around. I'm an exerciser. I've jogged, walked, or biked almost every neighborhood in my market. Because when I'm out on the streets, I get the smell of the neighborhood. I hear the traffic on the left side of the neighborhood. I hear the elementary school kids screaming on the right side of the neighborhood. It gives me a sense and a flavor. It lets me see the culture, the fresh air or the non-fresh air. And I've done that in almost every neighborhood in my market that has more than probably 50 homes. Market knowledge is the secret. If you take one thing away from this, it's market knowledge, folks. All right, where do I get leads? I'm gonna hit that. We're gonna fly through this, go short on time. Where do I get leads? Average town, average zip code, whatever, has about 146,000 people. Our counties down here have about 250,000 people. You can take a zip code, you need to narrow your market so you can have 100% market knowledge. We need about, an individual agent needs about 100 people a year moving. You can narrow down it to a few neighborhoods and get those 100 people. So who do we market to? I'm going to market to people over 21 who can afford real estate, under about 75, employed, good credit. And when you take those people, what this has done, and this isn't a fair housing conversation, this was within the guidelines of Facebook real estate marketing. When you do over 21, you've knocked out every elementary school, middle school, high school, and college. Most homes have 2 or 3 kids. We're not selling Play-Doh. We're not going to market to them. We're not going to market to the retirement facilities where people may have ended up for the rest of their golden years. We're going to find people who have careers, because in the real estate world, you got to have a job to get a mortgage. And we're going to look for people with good credit. When you narrow that out of a zip code or a small town, you've got about 5,000 people to market to. Apple's got 8 billion people to market to. That's an expensive marketing plan. But when you've got 5,000, you've got a lot more money to spend on a few people. Where do you find the 5,000? Where do they eat? Think about the zip code you live in now. Where do people go eat? Because that's every person eating there over the age of 18 is a client. You know, 30 under 30, they interviewed the 30 under 30 this year, Realtor Magazine. I love the quote from a young lady. She said, "I've never met a client inside my refrigerator." Where do they go to the gym? I've made about $500,000 over 30 years going to gyms. I went online. Well, I had a local place make it before the internet. I had one hat made with my website on it. I had one t-shirt made with my name and website on it. I had one gym bag made with my name and website on it, or my phone number before the internet. And I'll be at CrossFit at 5:30 today, and there'll be a hat and a shirt on me that says Stephen Cooley Real Estate Group, StephenCooley.com. I bought little $2, you know, those little $2 real thin backpacks. I bought 200 of them and set them at the front desk of the gym and put, "Take one." They were gone in 3 days. I see those backpacks on people all over my town. StephenCooley.com. Where do they shop? You know, if you do all your shopping on Amazon, you work out at home and you eat at home, your 5,000 people are at the gym and eating out. What's the biggest, best gym in your area, right? I go to the grocery store, called Harris Teeter, between my office and home. I'll wear my Superman outfit with my name badge, and I speak to every person who walks by me. If you worship, you know, you can worship at home or you can join a large organization that worships together. You know, if you like to drink, where do they drink? Where do they go have cocktails? In your zip code. And don't miss social media. It's no coincidence that you can have 5,000 friends on Facebook. And there's 5,000 people probably in your zip code buying and selling real estate. I coached a guy in West Hollywood last year, well, consultation, 2 or 3 calls. I went on his Facebook. He's about 30 years old, real good looking. I went on his Facebook, had 5,000 friends. I looked at them, all 5,000 lived in other countries, all good looking, bikinis and shirtless. So I told him, I said, "You spent your 20s traveling the world, didn't you?" And he said, "Yes." I said, "Now I want you to unfriend all them and friend 5,000 people in your zip code. So when you post an open house, when you post interest rates, when you give market updates, when you brag about your success, it's not the hot girl in a bikini in Australia looking at it. It is somebody in your zip code looking at it, because then it becomes absolutely free marketing. And it about killed him, but he shut down that Facebook completely and reopened one. And he's at 5,000 local people in his zip code now. And when he posts an open house, 100 or more people show up because he's posted it to 5,000 people that live in his zip code. Yeah. And he's top 5 in his MLS, and most of his business is social media now. But they can't be all out of town. They've got to be local. You know, in 89, I ordered, about 1992, I went to the National Realtors Convention, and Top Producer was there. And computers had just arrived. They were about the size of your desk. And Top Producer was selling a big floppy disk about the size of an 8x11 piece of paper. And you take that home and you stick that floppy disk in your computer, and it would take about 10 minutes. And what it brought up was a contact manager. And you could type people in there, old DOS program. You could type people in there, and then you could go back and pull up Sally and put some notes in there about Sally. And Sally, you could group people and search them by neighborhood, whatever you put in there. Top Producer knew whatever I told it. Facebook, if you're friends with people in your zip code on Facebook, they tell you when their dog dies. They tell you when it's their birthday. They ask you what's a good restaurant. They ask for recommendations on things around their house. You see when they get job promotions. You see when they have births and deaths. If Top Producer would have done that in 1992, I'd be a whole lot wealthier than I am today. So just because it's free, don't discount the power it has in tracking people, keeping up with your past clients, and new business through marketing. Free. I have 64 billboards in my town. I'm often asked, should a new agent buy a billboard? I pull up their Facebook and they don't have 5,000 local people. I always say, no, you're not doing the free stuff. Why would you start paying to do stuff? Secrets to real estate success: 100% buy-in, no safety net. If you've got a spouse or a significant other making money, yay. But you got to be all in, 100% in. You got backup, passive income, great. Income that takes time away from real estate, you can bill at $2,000 to $4,000 an hour. Quit all the other stuff. You got to get a buy-in to the people who support you into your sphere of influence. I expect my friends, people in my world, to buy real estate from me. I expect my dry cleaners to refer business to me. I expect my doctor to refer business to me. And I tell them that. I tell them, I'm using you and I'm recommending you. Will you do the same? And they'll go, well, I've never thought about that. Sure. And then they start doing that. Get up, dress up, show up. Every day, get up, dress up, show up. If it wasn't COVID, I would tell you that working at home doesn't work. There's too many distractions at home. 99% market knowledge. Stay positive. Stay in front of your 5,000 people all day long. If there are 5,000 local people on your Facebook, if they ask a question, where's a great place to get firewood? I answered that question yesterday on my Facebook to someone. And I didn't know, but I asked someone else and then I answered it. I'm standing in front of my 5,000 people for free. And stay focused. Don't give up. Overnight success ends in the morning. Success does take time. I'm on my 31st year and I'm still hustling, right? Be on time. Always stay money motivated. If you make enough money that you're satisfied with the money that you have and you can still want a big real estate career, donate the money you have and start over. Go buy something that gets you more money motivated. I was a single parent to a daughter, and so she always kept me money motivated for everything that she needed. And then my goal was to buy her first car, and it'd be a very safe car that was reliable, because that car was going to protect the love of my life. Then I sent her to college and wanted to make sure she graduated college debt free. And then she wanted a big Southern wedding, and she got one. And then I found that to be such a money motivator, I did all that for someone else's daughter, so I could stay money motivated and do that for another child that wasn't mine. And you've got to stay money motivated. And most people will be motivated up to their basic rent and car payment. But you got to go deeper than that to succeed at this business. If I go on a listing money motivated and you go on the same listing not needing the money, I'll get the listing over you. Stay hungry, humble, and honest. Be safe, be coachable. Remember, time on task beats talent every time. We've all heard of the great singers that have one song. The best singers are standing on the street with a cup in front of them sometimes. But the wealthy singers can't really sing. They've just been at it forever. If you think about the people who've been successful for a long period of time in the music industry. What happens at home stays at home. Guys, realtors are the most vulnerable to this. We all go through personal crises. I was interviewed by Gary Keller about a month ago, and he asked me, in my 31 years, how many economic real estate crises have I survived? And because it was about COVID, and I said, well, 12, including 9/11. I was in a sales meeting 19 years ago today, and real estate paused. I mean, people, did nothing for 90 days all over the world. Then I added up 12 personal crises that I've survived also, because I'm a living, breathing human being. And I've been in love, I've been out of love, I've been married, I've been divorced. I raised a high D on the disc female who made me think that I wasn't going to survive that. Now she's number 2 in her market as a realtor in Columbia, South Carolina. All the other things, health scares, loss of loved ones, aging parents. We can't bring those things to work. I don't have to go up and ask the pilot, are you having marital problems? But I'll be damned, you probably need to ask your listing agent, because if they are, they're about to list you home and disappear. So we've got to leave those things at home. We can't let our career ride the roller coaster that we all ride at home. I love fail forward. I love also not failing. You don't land on top by falling on it. Minimizing failures, not ever repeating a failure. If you do something and it wasn't good, don't do it again. If you tell me you did something and it wasn't good, I won't do it. I learned from my mistakes. I learned from other people's mistakes. And calling people is like going to the gym. It only hurts in the beginning. I have 2 phobias, and in my 20s they were big, and I didn't know I had them. One was a fear of flying, and one was a fear of public speaking. And now I fly to public speak. So what I have found in working on those 2 things is I've got to do them a lot. And I've got to just do them a lot. And I flew last week, and I haven't flown since March, and I was uncomfortable. And so, if you don't there's no money in us being introverts, and I'm actually an introvert, but I leave that introvert at home every morning, and he lays on the couch while I come to work and stay in my $2,000 hour mindset. If you have referrals, I'd love to see you. I'm going to pull us back up. Can y'all see me?
I see the Zoom screen.
Uh-oh. Let me.
Oh, there you go.
That's just a picture, right?
Yep.
Well, the picture looks better than me in real life, so we'll go with that. How's that? Any thoughts, any questions?
I know we had one in the chat. How did you break up the task between the 3 original assistants you hired?
Yeah, and so when you say you have those 3 first hires, you may actually, replace those people over time. So my 3 first hires was actually about 9 hires over about a 8-year period before I hired my first agent. One did it all. And then when I hired the second person, I knew what the first person was good at and what they were bad at. And I cared about them and wanted to keep them in my business. And so I hired someone else to be better at the other things. And what that turned into, which is still true today, I'd love to be able to see y'all. What that turned into was a listing specialist, and a closing specialist. Because I found, before I ever heard of the DISC, I found that a listing specialist is probably a high S. She cares about people, the process of them, you know, the kids are home, the dog's home, they got to get the house on the market, the husband passed away. She really cared about the people. And then I found my closing coordinator needed to be a high C with a low S because she needed to be kind of hard on people. She needed to be hard on that same person once they went pending for them to get their termites treated and their home repaired and all that. So those became my initial organization, and still to this day, that's how I split those departments up. So I would say your first hire needs to just be a great gopher. Someone that you can say, post these things on social media, run and get lunch, put this sign up. You know, the sellers cut the grass, want a new picture. And then that person may stay in that runner's position. And then at some point you hire a detail person who can really do the files for you so you can stay on listing appointments. I also learned very early that first hire and then the second hire, I always took someone on a listing appointment with me. And then that was that listing coordinator, because I found that two people on a listing doubled your chances of getting the business. I found that I could not job interview and take notes. I found that if people wanted to put their home on the market while I was there, which is what I always push for and still push for today, that one person could do the paperwork, put the sign in the yard, put the lock box on, maybe take pictures if the home's ready, while I went over the forms, and we could get in and out in half the time. I found that sellers were impressed that I was good enough to have an assistant. The assistant was a high S and I'm a high D. So we were a yin and yang, good cop and bad cop. And I found that in introducing the sellers to that assistant, the sellers would then call in, because they like her better than me, with her high S, they would call and ask for her and not me. And I could do double the business because of that. And that's how I initially separated that. Yeah.
At what point did you realize that you needed somebody, production-wise? How busy were you when you finally gave in and said, I need to take this?
My first year in the business, and I was 21 years old, I hired a licensed assistant, and the real estate commissioner investigated me for 3 years because I was the first person in the state of North or South Carolina to have an assistant and be a realtor. And what they were getting me on was the new agency laws, who's representing the client. And they'd never heard of two realtors working together and me paying. How was I paying her? The broker needed to pay her. That's all I got turned in on. That's how long ago I started building a team. You know, if we were going to open a restaurant tomorrow, would you hire, would the chef, the talent, be the waitress? Would the chef talent be the bus boy? Would it be the hostess? Would the chef be the marketer? Or would the chef of the restaurant be the one taking the food, ordering the food, doing payroll? No. We would open a restaurant with probably 30 people with a huge investment to launch that restaurant. By the way, with a huge failure rate, right, of restaurants. So I do believe you need to launch a real estate company, which all of us are a real estate company. If you're 1099, you're a real estate company, with a little bit of help. That may be minimum wage help from a part-time high school or college student initially, but you got to stay in that $2,000 to $4,000 bucks an hour work. A lot of agents will go, that's uncomfortable too. You know, where the rubber meets the road is real hot, but that's the only thing that matters on a wheel, right? And so if we like to get into that hot spot of going on a listing appointment, then we like to come back and type that listing into the computer for 3 days. We like to organize the file. We like to rub it and touch it and think about it and hold it. And when I would take my listing coordinator on every listing I ever went on, I didn't touch the file. I never brought the file back to the office. It was in her satchel. I never saw the file again. And I never really touched it until it became time to negotiate contracts. And that kept me in that rubber meets the road. But that's a stressful area to be. I was the listing agent for my company until the end of 2015, and we averaged 4 to 7 a day. We'd leave in the morning completely loaded up in my SUV, and we stayed on listing appointments until 5 or 6 p.m. every day. We'd stop and grab lunch out every day, and we had our Wonder Woman Superman outfits on. I bought her a couple of outfits I wanted her to wear, and when I bought mine, and we did that all day long.
If anybody else has any questions, you can unmute yourself and fire away.
And, you know, as we leverage at work, you got to leverage at home too. You know, if I was at home cleaning this weekend, I'm having my daughter's pregnant. I'm having a baby shower, a social distancing, mask only ride by baby shower at my house tomorrow. And about 150 people are stopping by, but I could have stayed home all day and prepared for that. Most people would, but I've got people at my home preparing it so I can be at work. You know, you got to leverage work, but you also got to leverage your personal life too. You know, if you can't be at home cutting grass all weekend when you could be out making $2,000 an hour. So, you know, in the leveraging world, most books talk about leveraging your business, but you do have to bring your personal life leveraging up at the same time to stay in that mode. It's great to spend this morning with you guys, have coffee with you, visit with you. If you got anybody moving to Charlotte, North Carolina, the greater South Carolina market, we would love to give them VIP treatment. I will certainly get more information on you guys and keep you on our radar too. You know, real estate is the best industry in the world, where we get to sell to every person. Every person's a potential client. We get paid well, and I love houses. You know, I have a passion about our end product. I believe it's a huge wealth builder. If you take renters and you put them in a home, so studies and statistics say that the family will stay together longer, bigger chance of them staying together. They'll get involved in the community, that kids will do better in school if they know they own the home and their bedroom's not changing every year, that their yard's not changing, that their school's not changing. So I'm a big advocate and believer in home ownership. I think that's really important to be a great salesman of that product. And I certainly think it's a product that we can be passionate about. I'm never mad at the clients. You know, if people could get along, if sellers and buyers could shake hands and consider that a legal binding contract, if sellers weren't crazy, if homes were in perfect condition, and if buyers had great credit and weren't crazy, we would be the first unemployed people. So when you get that crazy seller, and by the way, I just sold my home after 15 years. I was crazy. I was the worst seller ever. I wanted to call my realtor and cuss him out. I just had to do it in the mirror, right? My home was inspected. I get a home inspection every 3 years for free, so I get one. $28,000 worth of damage. First buyers walked over it. I agreed to do all the work, which was tear out an in-ground pool and put a new pool in, etc. Live termites, I was under a termite bond, etc. First buyer walked over the repairs. Second buyer got loan denial. Third buyer finally bought my home. So in my scenario, and the first 2 buyers crazy, third buyer crazy too. In my scenario, crazy seller, bad house, crazy buyers. And that's why we've got a job. So when you get that troubled crazy call at 8 o'clock at night on a Saturday from a seller panicking over the bathroom light being left on after a showing. I just pick up that phone and know I'm being billed at $2,000 an hour. And I realized if that seller was sane and the bathroom light had not been left on and the house was not eat up with termites probably when we get the inspections and the buyer's got credit problems, I know I would be unemployed. Yeah. Yesterday, we had people in our lobby sitting all day because their wire was stolen. $120,000 was stolen between their account and the attorney's account. And I didn't sit out there with them all day, but I checked on them every 30 minutes. They had nowhere to go. Their moving truck was in our front of our office. I bought them lunch and that kind of stuff. But if it wasn't for that kind of stuff, we would be unemployed. So I never get tired of it. I never get tired of it. As soon as they cure all the health problems, doctors won't have jobs, so they should never get tired of hearing us ache and complain, right? Some of them do. So I always remind myself of that, and I always keep that in mind in dealing with all these people and that kind of stuff. And if that co-broke agent wasn't crazy, they'd have a big career, but they're probably going to be out of the business in 24 months. And the client that just worked with them and bought one of our listings will then call us. So I'm always kind of glad they're crazy too. So keep that in mind, right?
Yeah. All right, Stephen. Well, we appreciate you jumping on with us and sharing your successful stories and the secrets of real estate.
Well, it was great to spend time with y'all. Thank you for asking me. It's always an honor to be asked. And so it made me feel good this morning to get to spend time with you guys. Take care.